Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer series at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is Navigating the Legal Landscape, Contracts, Compliance, and Technology. We have with us Prashant Srivastava, Head of Contracts at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, a seasoned legal and contracts management expert with over a decade of experience in corporate law, compliance, and legal tech. Currently leading global contract and risk management for global logistics and space function at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. Prashant has an extensive background in end-to-end legal operations, contracts management, and compliance, working for top organizations like Deloitte, EY, and Dell, from navigating high-stakes negotiation to driving legal digital transformation. His expertise in contracts, lifecycle management, and risk mitigation makes him a key voice in the legal tech space. Join us as we explore his journey, insights on corporate legal trends, and the evolving of technology in legal operations, and also his personal journey and some uh, fun around also. So, welcome, Prashant, to today's coffee conversation.
So thank you so much, Amir, and thank you for having me. Really looking forward to the conversation. I'm all set with my coffee.
Thank you. So, let me explain you the flow and the format.
Sure.
It is divided into three parts: professional journey round, personal journey round, and a fun rapid fire round, for which you have to be witty, fun, and quick. And here's your go. This is the latest one, author looking at the AI
Nice.
happening, and
Okay.
it will be autographed and sent to you. But you have to win it.
Okay, sure. For sure. I'll try hard. And with AI, obviously,
I know,
people
I
buzzword
know.
these days, right?
I'm just motivating the coffee speaker
Yes.
to
Yeah.
have the fun and win
Yep.
the gift also.
Yeah.
Okay. So, friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation, legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, uh, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startup SMEs with world-class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question, Prashant, you have had a dynamic career across global firms. What inspired you to specialize in contracts, compliance, and legal tech?
No, and thank you for asking that question because I've been literally asked this on a lot of forums because my journey started as a company secretary, right, and which is very different from what I'm doing today. So and the good part is that every time I have to answer this, I have a very new perspective to add. Because the way I see it, my journey into contracts, compliance, and legal tech specifically, it wasn't very linear. Certainly, it's been it came with a lot of experiment, I would say, working across different organizations, different roles, but has been incredibly purposeful. And I think and this is evolving because every time, and maybe next time we'll meet and you'll have this question, I'll have a different answer because as you have seen, obviously, we were talking about technology, how it was perceived. I mean, 10 years back, hardly anyone thought about tech in legal, right? And there was a lot of resistance also. But at the same time, now when you see everyone is willing to adopt it, so the kind of pace and the kind of value creation which can happen, right, within this function, uh, and it has gone beyond from being a back office support to a function which is very strategic. So I think that really inspires me and motivates me, and I've realized over the period of time that it's an area which is now being seen even by the leadership within organizations as something which has a very good blend of risks, managing your risk better, at the same time driving a lot of commercial value. So I think that has been the inspiration, I would say, to specialize in these domains.
Wow. So, Prashant, as an expert in contracts lifecycle management, what are the common mistakes organizations make when handling contracts?
Yeah, so I think the first I was the one which I tended to in my first response, right? All this while, I think most of the organizations, because ultimately, if you see when exactly the contracts come in place, right, come in picture, right, when you are going to award a contract to someone, and then suddenly, or maybe when you're making changes, those are the two scenarios where ultimately, people will be reaching out to a contracts function or a legal function which is supporting contracts. But that's where ultimately what happens is when you're seeing your contract just as a tool to create a relationship, I think that's the first mistake which any organization does, because that's where I think you'll have to really And nowadays, I mean, maybe, you talk to the CEOs, you talk to the CFOs. One thing which you'll find common these days is that they understand their contracts better and they understand the value beneath it, inside it, right? So, because ultimately, if you see what exactly is a contract, it's data, right? I mean, you have a lot of data, a lot of structured data which is available to you, and you can drive a lot of value. So, some common mistakes, obviously, the first one being that you're just considering a contract as a contract, and you really are not looking at the inherent value it has. Second is nowadays also, tendency is to just look at, okay, I mean, if you're able to get certain terms and conditions, which is your standard in an organization, if you're able to get that, it's a big win. Certainly it is, but then I think a lot of shift nowadays, you'll find leaders tending towards reasonable contracting as a methodology, right? Because a lot of time what happens, you're thinking that you have negotiated something which is a better clause, a better provision, a better contract, but it might not be reasonably be able to help you when you actually need it in the court of law, right? So those are certain things where, and then the post contracts management has always been considered as a very menial job, but the real value, what you can actually derive from contracting is when you're actually managing your post execution exercise as well, right? And that's where you get into the contracts, you manage your deliverables well, you manage your relationship well, you are able to manage your performance across customers and suppliers, and that's where you actually drive value. So I think these are some common mistakes which you'll find a lot of organizations, a lot of contracts managers actually doing. But I think that's it's changing slowly, gradually.
Wow. So, Prashant, how does regulatory compliance impact contract negotiation, especially in a global setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think very good question, so and it's an area, right, which again is again, I'll tend to standards of contracting, right? Majorly every organization, what they do is you'll have standard contracting guidelines defined for their contracts managers, their sourcing managers, their customer sales negotiators, and they just try to achieve that. But a lot of and very few organizations who have actually done a very balanced assessment of jurisdictional impact across certain provisions, right? I mean, you can talk about arbitration, you can talk about certain kind of liabilities acceptance, right, at a contract level, and I think that's where your regulatory regime, regulatory assessment associated with contract becomes really essential, because what you're writing as a template might hold good for certain use cases, certain countries, but might not be valid or be applicable across a lot of other organizations, a lot of other jurisdictions, right? Because every legal system will have a very different requirement. Every jurisdiction will have a very different compliances, and I think that's where the regulatory aspect always have a very important aspect to play. And if you really assess your contracts and you break it down, you'll find that and there's an industry play also, right? It's not just about that if you have written one particular kind of contract, it will serve you better, right? Your liabilities, your regulatory requirement, your customs compliances, all of that ultimately differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. At the same time, even about components, right? The kind of component you are selling. Say if you have parts which are restricted kind of goods, then you have a whole lot of compliances to adhere to. So yes, I mean I think regulatory aspects are one very essential, very robust thing to look at, and I think that's another area which requires a lot of attention.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading me to my question. You have worked with brands like Deloitte, EY, Hewlett Packard. How do legal strategies differ across industries?
So, I mean, a very difficult question, and I would say, and majorly, I think for this question, you do understand that whatever I'm sharing is more of my opinion, and
Yeah,
my
yeah.
observations around when I've been working with these companies. What happens is right now, majorly, and if you see when you're talking about a Deloitte or a EY, for that matters, any consulting company, their approach is very different, right? And their focus is often going to be on risk management, compliance, intellectual property protection, because a lot of IPs what is being created for clients, right? And that's when you're going to rely on a lot of proprietary methodologies. Whereas when it comes to manufacturing sectors or your services sectors, you'll find the organizations literally placing a very strong emphasis on product liability, data privacy, your liabilities, right, your warranty terms. So I think the primary objectives remains same across all kind of organizations, that yes, they want to get into a very balanced uh, contracts, very standard compliance regimes, right? They want to be ethical in their approach, but the shift often happens in terms of what kind of provisions requires more focus, and that's where I guess the organization decide to be more robust, and that's how I think it gets addressed.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Prashant, what are the key elements of a well-structured contract negotiation strategy?
Very close to my heart question, I would say. I've been like literally breathing contracts day in day out for last decade almost, right? So and if you really observe, most of the contracting leaders, when you speak to them, their objectives now have shifted from garnering wins by getting favorable terms or exercising weight to reduce liabilities, right? I feel the next revolution, what is going to happen within contracting space, would be the shift towards reasonable contracting, right? It's a term, maybe, I'm not sure someone has coined it or not yet, but I feel that's where the focus going to shift, right? Because that's where the value lies in terms of actually saving a lot of time, a lot of resources. Uh,
Mm.
that's the place where you can drive a lot of automation, because you do not have lawyers literally fighting on punctuations and commas and like one line of things to be removed, and that's when they feel accomplished. So and that's why you start focusing more on the reasonability of terms and conditions being pushed, right? So that you get better enforceable contracts. So from a negotiation strategy perspective, I think when we go to discussion, right, a balanced culmination of legal position, right, it is very essential. Understanding your business, I think, to everyone within my team, or whomsoever I mentor, I mean, what I tell them is that before uh, understanding what is written in law, understand what you actually do, what your business is, the industry with what you operate on, because that's when you actually be able to assess risk. So a right balance of understanding of legal positions, understanding the business and industry you're operating in, and then your standards guidelines, right, within an organization, what you follow. I think that's prepare you really well when you go on the table, and it often helps you in getting the better outcomes, right? So I think those are. I mean, if I feel, right, anyone who's preparing for their contracts negotiations, if they are focusing on these three areas, I think they'll mostly be able to get a good negotiation done.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for leading me to next question. Legal technology is transforming the industry. How do you
Yeah.
see AI and automation shaping the future of contract management?
Yeah, again, a very buzzing topic, I would say, right? And that's the buzzword these days. Every company you will find talking about AI. The market is flooded with a lot of AI tools these days, right? I mean, you literally, if you try to find out, I think it's actually, I think you can literally create a separate podcast talking about tech these days within legal domain, right? Uh, I think AI is certainly evolving as we were speaking, right. 10 years back, an auto extraction tool, when it used to apply some machine learning models to clauses, and then ultimately you used to get references, and then you're able to you literally used to get amazed. So and what started as a workflow management or a repository creation, right, has gone beyond to the extent that you're literally looking at AI generated negotiators, right? I mean, you have IBM Watsons and other. I'm sorry, I'm taking names, but I mean, they're really helpful tools, and you can literally find AI talking and negotiating, and what it is literally doing that at a very good pace, in the kind of processing time it offers, that's certainly unmatchable. So I think a good it certainly has changed, transformed a lot. You get better visibility across your entire function. I'm not just talking about contracts, right? But if it is actually getting leveraged well across the legal function, you have so many use cases which you can literally drive, which can help in freeing up the legal teams to focus on more strategic and high value work, right? Because obviously, one thing, you can always be guided by the research, what you can leverage, when it comes to AI, but always, there would be that human element to it where your experience and your strategy comes, right? Because ultimately, you have to ask right questions to get right answers from AI. But ultimately, that asking the right question is something which comes from strategy. Uh,
Yeah.
but yes, I think the kind of tremendous change what we have seen, how it has evolved, and I think it's while we are talking, I'm sure someone is writing a very different kind of code, right? I mean, suddenly the shift
Mm.
has gone to agentic AI nowadays, right? Everyone's talking about
Yeah.
agentic AI. So yeah, no, certainly, it's going to impact a lot, and I think it is essential for all of us, specifically lawyers, who initially registered this as a change, but now I think we know for sure that we have to adopt it, right? And we have to be very smart. We have the opportunity to be smart, and I think it ultimately is helping us to drive a lot of value, uh, because I mean, and maybe I'm it was a short question, but I'm giving a long answer. But the kind of inherent value, which any kind of legal data it has, right? Which uh, if you are able to apply a tool like that, right? I mean, it's just leveraging AI. Just imagine, right? In heap of like 3,000, 4,000 contracts, you are able to get a lot of commercial assessment done, right? Which ultimately would require a lot of man hours to do. Certainly, it is making our life simple. I mean, we'll get more time to be more strategic in what we do, and at the same time, you remove redundancies. So I guess, yeah, it's going to be changing a lot. It's revolutionizing, and I'm sure it's going to go from good to better to best.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my next question, Prashant, you've been part of legal process transformation. What
Mhm.
best practices should companies follow for contract digitalization?
Yeah, again, a very nice question. And when you're asking this, as I said, this is evolving. I recently completed last year a full-blown CLM implementation across organization for our function. And I think one learning, and I also, I mean, I would say that I got an opportunity to work with some almost all market leading tools. I have either been a user or I've implemented as part of my consulting experience, or when I was a GC, I implemented some of them in my internal organizations wherever I worked. So I got a very robust view of it. One view of when you are implementing something as a technology partner, one when you're actually a user, and one then when you're using it as a contracts manager, which is a very specific use case, right? For a GC, the ask will be different. For a contracts head, the ask would be different, and someone who's just an implementation head, for them, a technology ask is different. So I got an opportunity to see it from all those hats, and that's where I think I feel the first thing what any organization, I think for that matter, it's not just about a CLM tool, but any tool, we really need to understand, do a thorough assessment of our business requirements, right? A very detailed business requirement document, I think, is a boon. Like, I mean, literally, you can have a very clear view of things, uh, with a very clearly drafted BRD. Stakeholder engagement is something which is very essential, right? You'll find a lot of people. I think, and somewhere asked someone, I think some forum asked me, and then I said, what I see, it's always been about people, process and technology, right? So process and technology is easy to solve. People is difficult, right? It's an aspect where you'll always find people who are not aligned within the organization with what you're doing, and that's when I think it's essential that you have people onboarded in the very beginning, right? Once you have your strategies defined, that's when I think people and stakeholder alignment is very essential. I think a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders, right? They miss it because they obviously might be operating their own ivory towers and thinking that okay, this is my function, my project, and I have to get this done. But I think that comes as a learning. Third thing, I think nowadays what is happening, everyone is just rushing to get a tool within their function, right? Because everyone is following technology, everyone wants AI. Why not us? So it's more of beyond a more strategic, thought through approach. It is coming out of more of a fear of missing out. That okay, my peers have got a CLM solutions or a AI solution implemented, but but what I feel personally, that when you actually do a proper end-to-end process mapping within legal function, right, you'll get to know a lot of things can be solved with internal tools like Power BI or SharePoint, right? You really don't need to get a full-blown CLM implemented, right, which will cost you a lot, cost you a lot of time also. There will be a lot of efforts. But I think that understanding is very essential. It's not just about getting the technology, because ultimately then you'll need people to make it work. So I think these three things are very essential. And then you have to have a very clear ROI in your mind, right, which you have to demonstrate, because there's a cost associated to any kind of digitalization. So it should be driven by a very thought through ROI, which you are able to define for your leadership, and you're able to demonstrate it. So I think these are certain areas. which if thought through well, you end up winning with the implementation. Obviously, when it's technology, it can always go wrong, but at the same time, I think certain things can be mitigated if you're focusing on these areas. Yeah.
Wow, good. So you're leading me to my next question. I'm happy.
Sure.
What are the key elements for a good relationship, according to you,
Mhm.
with different stakeholders?
Yeah. Again, very good question, and I'm glad that you asked. So as a function, I think all of us, we should be understanding, what value ultimately we create, right? And that again, there's a divide between what you are asked to do and what you should be doing, right? When you understand the basic inherent nature of a particular function, right? Obviously, as a head of a contracts, I can always think that, okay, my responsibility is just to ensure that all my relationship has a contract in place and a good contract in place, which is not creating any risk. But at the same time, if you go and move beyond, right, and when you have a very wider expanse of things, right, where you actually start connecting that, okay, who's actually being impacted with my actions, right, across the value chain, that's when you really understand, okay, what is the expectation of each and every stakeholder uh, from you. So I think it starts there, where you really understand, okay, the kind of relationship and stakeholders I have to manage, what are their expectations. And then maybe I think that reach out often is considered as, it's a very underrated term, but I think it always helps, right, when you're making active reach outs to stakeholders, trying to understand, okay, what they're, and it can be, random. You don't have to do this. I mean, it can be over a coffee chat, it can be over breaks, right? When you really try to understand, okay, is there something I can do more better, right, to support you, what you're doing? Or maybe, that cross-functional expertise. Nowadays, when we meet with a lot of other teams, right, and the organizations like HP and others, Deloitte, Dell, right, they're very large organizations, oceans, and you have multiple pods working towards, maybe, at times, towards a common objective. When you meet and when you start having a conversation, you get to know a lot of things that, that, okay, this particular solution, this particular practice can actually solve things for me. So I think that active conversation is very essential. And that understanding of need, when you go to those conversations with actually trying to find either a value proposition or extend one, I guess that's where, your stakeholder relationship strengthens. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So, Prashant, how has a leadership style evolved, like working from Deloitte, EY, HP, and others?
My leadership style, or you're generally asking for leadership styles?
Yours.
My leadership style. Okay. No, certainly. When you access different organization, every organization at core has a very different working culture, very different people culture, very different focus areas. And I mean, I was very fortunate to get to work with a lot of leaders who have been really great leaders, right? I mean, they were not leaders just for the purposes of getting things done, but literally, there was leaders who were interested in mentoring you, interested. They were invested in, your growth. And I'll not name those leaders on this forum, but across my organizations, right, I worked with some really great leaders, and I think I got to learn from them a lot. One thing, I guess, is what I found common across all those leaders was empathy, ultimately, right? And we are all working towards one cause, and it's not about an individual's growth. Ultimately, all of us who are doing something, we are aspiring things to do, is ultimately, has to, we really want to reach from point A to point B, right? And that's where I think the leader's responsibility also is not to just get things done, but to help people in reaching from that point A to point B. So my leadership style certainly, evolved from, how I see, because I started managing team when I joined Deloitte. I mean, prior to that, obviously, I was operating either as a team lead, but or more mostly as an individual contributor. But then, yes, in a fast-paced consulting environment, you have to be very focused on getting things done. You really cannot drop the ball, and just be very flexible at times. Obviously, you have to have different difficult conversations. But at the same time, you also have to ensure that, because when you are operating in very pressure kind of stringent timelines, and very pressured work environment, you have to ensure that, you really need someone to, pat your back and be there. I think one thing what I have learned is that you should be, as a leader, you should be giving an opportunity and a liberty to your team members to make mistakes, right? Because so that they can fail fast and learn fast. And I think that's where collectively we all grow, because as a leader also, you'll not have to be required to handle a lot of people in the long run if they have failed and they have learned. So, and but at the same time, I think when I have a cross functional global team to manage, it's very essential to understand even a bit of human psychology, cultural differences, and then you really have, I mean, it looks like it at times, it looks simple that you can really be a manager or leader of a function, but I think that requires a lot of time, a lot of continuous learning and self evolvement, which continues right over the period of time. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it has changed for sure. And every day when I interact with new teams, new members joining, it keeps changing. I think I'm sure next time we meet, I'll have more to add to it because it's continuously evolving. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
My next question, Prashant, with your experience in risk management and compliance,
yeah.
what are some of the biggest challenges companies face today?
Yeah, so I think, and this is similar to what I was, again, I was ultimately tending, as I told you, and I'm also a qualified company secretary, and in some roles which I managed earlier, right, corporate governance was at the core. So in my experience, the biggest challenges companies face today in risk management and compliance are multifaceted, right? Because it's driven by rapid technology change, global operations. Your regulatory landscapes are evolving on a daily basis, right? I mean, you might be hearing a lot of changes around the US tariffs, right? And so it's so quick these days, right? You have to be really agile. And one of the primary challenges is, in managing the risk in an increasingly complex scenarios, right? Cross-border environment, right? So as the expansion is happening in new market, you'll hardly find, and companies are literally reinventing on a daily basis, right? So that swift navigation across various legal frameworks, cultural nuances, and regulatory requirements, I think it's very key to the overall process, right? And that's when I think I feel it once it is handled properly, a very robust risk assessment. You really have to be very very holistic, and again, it differs from the kind of role you're in. Like, I mean, obviously as a GC, when I was a GC, right? I mean, it was very holistic because you're not just looking at one area. You're having a very multifaceted approach. You have to ensure data privacy. You're looking at overall posh as a compliance. You're looking at ethics and compliance, right? You have to manage your whistleblower policies well, right? You have to ensure that you're not breaking any competition rules. So yes, I think risk overall, again, a very simple term, but when you actually get into the expanse of it, it's very essential. And I think that's where the interplay of obligations management comes in. I'm not sure, how many organizations they realize the value of obligations, in your contracts, or even when you're partners or suppliers or customer relationships, because that's where, when you're even engaging with them, right? You're That's when you are actually starting to deliver on your contractual commitments, right? So that kind of I guess provides a very good forum. I mean, if being leveraged well, you're literally focused on having a very multifaceted overall, expansive approach of things, and understanding of the organization. I guess it plays a very important role. I think very essential for all of us to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Prashant, if you could predict one major shift in corporate legal operations over the next 5 years, what
Yeah.
would it be?
Technology is one for sure. I mean, we have talked a lot about it, right? And it's and the shift majorly, I guess in the next 5 years, you'll find a lot of organizations adopting technology. I think all this while when you go on forums, you still found people who are advocate of technologies. There were people who were still saying no, saying that no, it's maybe it's not adding that much value. But I guess now with all these, and thanks to you, like thanks to people like you who are somehow contributing towards the community, right? You're literally doing this, expanding this knowledge. Whosoever get to see it, they get the first hand experience, right? Listening from the industry experts. uh, I guess that's where these conversations actually are helping people move from that resistance to acceptance. I think so that acceptance is going to be more, and you'll find a lot of organizations actually seeing these functions, legal and contracts, as a backend traditional function, which is more, very document heavy, very people heavy. You'll find people being more strategic, right? The focus. I'm not sure. Maybe someone, if someone called it out, right? But there's a report from World Commerce and Contracting, right? I'm quoting. As per them, I think it's around 8% is the overall global contract value leakage, right? And you can just imagine for the companies which are as big as Apple's and the Teslas of the world and the Microsoft of the world, 8% is huge, right? When it comes to their overall suppliers spends or customer spends. So I guess that's a shift where ultimately people are going to see these functions are more strategic. Nowadays, you'll find a lot of people actually aiming, and having a seat on the boards, right? And legal suddenly has come up as a very important function, which is being engaged right from the very beginning, not at the point where you actually need them in the court of law or in an event of a dispute or for writing a contract, but right from the very beginning, when you're actually exploring relationships, when you are defining your 2025 2030 strategies, right? And it has expanded, it's gone beyond. I think there will be a lot of focus also on sustainability as a domain, right? Which is again, has touched across all the domains. And I think the most important, what I feel and which I really want, I think the harmonization of contracting is going to happen soon, because it takes a lot of time. We pay a lot of money. All of us, we spend a lot of time. So that reasonable contracting is what I feel is going to be taken up as a next experiment, maybe, or as a next mission for all of us who are breathing contracting, contracts management, and all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Prashant, how is the experience using different legal tech
Mhm.
solutions over the years?
Yeah, very good question. And so as I told you, right, I've actually used implemented a lot of these tools. Uh, at core, everyone is trying to solve similar kind of issues. The use cases are not changing, right? It's just that I think one. I mean, we have a lot of tools available in the market which are very agile, very flexible. And as a user, what I realized when I was implementing it, either for the customers or when I was implementing for myself, I think the first ask which any leader will have, that how flexible the tool is, right? Because you would not want uh, your workflows to fail, right, during a very critical contract negotiations, right? And you would not want to solve tech every day, right? That's not our core job, right? We are there to fight other battles, and you really want the technology to be the last. So I think from technology perspective, I guess there are a lot of competitive tools available in the market, but you have to be really very careful. A lot of discussions what I have to have with my peers, right? I tell them with my experience, I do tell them that assess the need first of all, right? What you really want to solve, and then bring in technology, because nowadays a lot of technologies, a lot of tool providers you will find and you'll come across who will say that yes, they can literally launch rockets, right? And but that's not the case actually, and they all look very good on paper. But when you are actually going and implementing them, that's when the real challenge lies. I mean, it's a good 1.5 year, 2 years of journey, and but yes, I mean, if you see a lot of good tools available who are which are actually simplifying, um, you know, uh, the work, the kind of value what you can derive. I mean, I would not name any particular tool, but ultimately you have a lot of tools, which are literally providing a lot of great analytical insights, right? Literally using the contractual data, legal data to give a real time visibility, right? Making your overall workflow very streamlined and simplified, right? Obligations management is a solution, I think, which I ask everyone to look at, right? Once you have defined your obligations, I guess if a solution can offer a good obligations management system, I think things as basic as like having a very clear view of your family tree of contracts, right? It's not. It's a very simple ask, but a lot of time when you reach out to a lot of CLM providers, they'll say, because our contracts are structured like this, we really cannot give you a SharePoint view of contracts, right? Which is a very simple and basic ask. So no, I think there are a lot of tools. I think that's when things becomes difficult. Also nowadays, I think 10 years back, as you were talking, right, when I started my journey, and I'll mention a name of a tool called Kira, right? And I don't think any I'm not sure, if there are tools which are similar to that who have matched that kind of accuracy when it comes to actually extracting the content, the kind of models they had, 10 years back. I think their organizations are still struggling to get it. And I think that's the value you need. You don't need complex tools. You don't need like a full blown, end-to-end solution, which is not able to streamline your function, but actually making it more complex. So while you have too many options available, I think it's very essential nowadays for all of us to be very careful of what you are implementing, because then it's a challenge. Then it'll be difficult for you to justify the ROIs.
So my last question will be related to that only.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to legal professionals
Mm.
looking to integrate tech-driven solutions into their workflows?
Yeah, no, do not rush. Do not rush. I think do not just go by that, okay, your organization is driving digital transformation, so you also have to be one. Nowadays, I think leaderships will appreciate the conversations where you are actually telling them, see, I really do not expect you to spend a lot. And I know solutions which are actually driving a lot of value. I do not want to solve everything, and I do not want to solve something which is not broken at all, right? And you really cannot solve everything, right? I mean, while you'll find it very fancy that someone is just coming and automating your drafting process. Drafting requires a lawyer, right? You really would not be able to rely on, and there would hardly be a scenario in a global international transaction scenarios where you'll not find a very straightforward lawyer who just comes to you and accept whatever you give them, right? I mean, there will be negotiations, there will be iterations, and that cannot be done on tool. Obviously, you can streamline the process, you can create an audit trail, but I think my only advice to everyone who's deciding to either, or who have even either embarked on this journey or planning to, uh, a very, very clear understanding of what you need, then comparing what others are doing is very essential. So and do assess. I think there are a lot of tools. Do not just go by what is stated on the web. Do not go by marketing gimmicks, what you'll see a lot of times, which is happening. No solution provider will say that okay, something is not working. I think peer connects helps a lot. And again, the forums like these, if people they do follow, they'll get a first hand understanding of okay, what's not working well, right? While everyone's talking about what's working well, what's not working well is very essential. And that's when I think it's anyone who's deciding, talk to peers, people who have implemented these solutions, reach out to them, try to understand their pain areas, and then take a decision. And there are a lot of simplistic tools available in the market who are just solving what actually is needed to solve, rather than giving you like a full suite of SKUs, which ultimately makes it more complicated than solving things for you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Our journey will continue. I'm planning a panel discussion
Sure.
on
Yeah.
a contract lifecycle and contract management. We'll
Sure.
connect with later.
Be
Now,
glad
let's
to
go to
be.
the next round
Sure.
and understand Prashant as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years.
Sure. No, thank you for asking that question. I mean, I hail from a place called Gorakhpur in UP. I'm not sure if you're aware, but obviously with our CM getting a lot of traction these days. I mean, for my initial schooling till class 12 happened there, and then I moved to Delhi. For my as I stated, I started as a company secretary, so I joined Dell as a CS intern, then I got absorbed there. That's when I realized the kind of value lawyers are creating in house, and that's when I started pursuing my law. I have and then obviously have been oscillated between basically in Delhi, NCR, and Bangalore. Now settled in Bangalore permanently. For now, working with HP for almost like 3.5 years now. I'm also, from academics, and I'm also pursuing my PhD from GD Goenka, which is again, is related to cross-border contracting with a reference to AI is a topic what I have taken, so that even I can start contributing, like the forums like these, what you are running, so that people get to be more aware and they can start leveraging these. So that's, I mean, I'm and as far as my family is concerned, I have my parents and my wife and my daughter. We all stay together in Bangalore. My wife is in advertising. She's leading the planning and media function for one of the technology companies. And then yes, I have a 5-year-old daughter. I really like spending time with her whenever I get to. Yeah.
Wow. So, Prashant, when you're not navigating legal complexities, what's your go-to activity that truly helps you unwind and recharge?
Sure. I mean, maybe when I really want to say that I read a lot. When that has got reduced. I do read, but yeah, obviously, whenever I get time, I try to read because that gives you a lot of different kind of perspective. I do not follow any specific genre, but maybe a lot of times people recommend something, and then uh, something which is very intriguing. I started with reading a lot of self help initially. but then obviously as you grow, obviously it shifts. So reading is one thing which I take up. I do a little bit of writing also at times, whenever I can. And I do voiceovers also, as sometimes
Hmm.
some voiceover gigs, right? Narrations, or at times some advertisements or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So, what's one book, movie that has unexpectedly influenced your perspective?
Yeah, so I think a book which I read long back, and I think in fact, there came a point where I started gifting it to anyone whom I realized can help. It's the book called Saint Surfer and the CEO by Robin Sharma. Not sure if you have read it, but it's a really nice book because it's a story about a person who's very invested in his professional life, and a high flyer, and really there comes a time where he actually is more mechanical than any kind of human connections is remaining within him. But that's when he met an accident, and ultimately he gets some time, and how he evolves and actually meet these three people, a saint and the surfer and the CEO, and that's when the realization comes in place. So I think that books offers a very good blend and understanding about having different version of your own self and exploring it over the period of time, so that you can literally be more fulfilling as an individual, right? Because it's not just one aspect which gives you that accomplishment and sense of fulfillment. I think that book's very beautifully conveys that. So I would recommend anyone who's listening is to check out that book. Really nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you can also send me the book.
Sure, I will for sure. Would love to.
Okay. Ah. So, what does a perfect weekend look for, Prashant?
Yeah, perfect weekend is obviously, because the weekdays are so eventful, right? Most of the time, I think perfect weekend looks like a very calm one where you don't have to do much, not being asked to do a lot, where you can spend time with your own self, with family. I guess that's a perfect weekend idea for me. Yeah.
Wow. If your close friends had to describe you using three words, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many friends. I think some very handful, and most of them they have been with me for almost more than a decade now. So I'm sure whatever they'll have a very uniform things to say about me, because mostly yes, they'll say that I'm very very ambitious, because obviously I've been cannot be stuck in one situation for long. Obviously I really need to evolve. That's how I see things. But at the same time, yes, I think easy to be with is what they'll say. I'll would love to hear them, someone who's always willing to extend a helping hand and be there. And if you're really looking for a go-to for a good conversation, obviously someone, I think that's what they'll say. They can really literally reach out to me for a good evening conversations, good discussions, motivations, and a lot of talks about life is what I get. I think they get from me. Yeah.
Uh, so, who's been your biggest cheerleader from your family?
So now, obviously, initially parents and wife, but nowadays I think my daughter, and anything and everything I do, I guess she gets excited even because before I was getting ready for this meeting and I was putting on this blazer, she was like, where exactly you're going? And I told him, I'm going on YouTube, and she got very excited, and so I guess, yeah, I think nowadays she has been the biggest. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Suppose you had 1 week away
Mm.
from the work, away from the gadgets. What would you do and why?
I'll spend a lot of time writing, because I do miss it. As I said, I'll get to. I would also. I mean, I have a wish list to do some reading, some good books which I really want to read. I have this tendency of buying a lot of books, but then obviously it is just being stuck in the library, and then you're not getting time to read it. So yes, I mean, if I get a week, for me, I'll certainly read a lot, spend time with family, because most of the time we are on calls, video calls, working from home. So I guess some very peaceful time with family, reading, writing. I guess that will be coming as a luxury, I guess, at this point in time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for 2025 personally and professionally?
Yeah, personally, I'm sure, as it's like a repetitive. statement, but ultimately I really want to spend more time with family because, last 10, 12 years, whatever I've worked so far, I've been really working hard and, trying to do multiple things, whether it is academics or whether it's at the professional front. One is that and from professional front, as I said, I've already started pursuing my PhD. I really want to contribute towards the community in terms of, imparting that knowledge, sharing my experience, whatever I have acquired so far, just contributing with that. Uh, Industries, companies are evolving, changing. I'm looking at, learning more about technology, certainly putting my hands, understanding the more tech side of AI is what I feel is what I'll be doing from the professional perspective. And yes, I'm just trying to find more ways to contribute, uh, within my organization and, in terms of driving more value through the functions what I'm managing. I think that's what I'm looking at.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my last one is a googly one. Describe Prashant in one line.
Yeah, that's difficult. I think that there will be an overlap with the friends question. I think I'm someone I feel. I mean, that's the feedback what I get. Maybe I'll let um, others maybe decide that, but I think I'm someone who's easy to work with, easy to be with. I think I mostly have a solution centering approach. When people come to me with problems, I really don't like spending a lot of time thinking about the problems, and I get more comfort when I'm able to see something as like, even if it is like a very far-sighted solution, maybe far-fetched solution, but if a solution is something which I can see, I feel good about it. So I think, yeah, mostly easy to work with, easy to be with, someone who's very solution-centric, and yeah, I think someone who would be happy to keep things simple and be simple, I guess, that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's go next round and have some fun. The
Sure.
rapid fire round.
Yeah.
Contracts or compliance?
Contracts.
Your go-to comfort food?
Home food. Anything cooked at home, I guess, will be the comfort food. Yeah.
Your favorite color?
Black.
AI in law, is it boon or bane?
Boon, for sure.
You're a morning person or night owl?
I think it's a blend these days now. Generally, I used to be a night owl, but now day starts early with my daughter, and then obviously, goes late because of the professional commitments. Yeah.
One skill every lawyer should master.
Knowing that you're not a lawyer and understanding the business well.
Wow. If you could have dinner with one legal legend, who would it be?
I mean, there's a huge list for sure. I really wanted to, meet at some point in time Mr. Fali Nariman, but obviously, if obviously not possible, but yeah, that's the name I would want to take.
Wow. So, favorite cuisine from Gorakhpur?
I mean, majorly, I think any the kind of spices you get here get there. I know it's very different. So not like a cuisine, but I think with those specific spices, anything home cooked, ultimately I would love to. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Favorite place in Bangalore?
Favorite place in Bangalore? Yeah, but there are too many, but I think I first came to Bangalore in 2014, and I think I was staying in a place called Indranagar. So, and that's a very good place. I'm not sure if you've been to Bangalore, but it has a very different kind of vibe, and one place which still has that Bangalore vibe in there. Yeah,
Tea or coffee to recharge?
tea. I cannot say no to tea. Yeah, right now also. Yeah,
So you did well, and here's your book, Legal AI
thank you so much.
101, which will
Yeah,
autograph and send to you. So,
thank you so much.
friends, it was a lovely conversation having with Prashant. He eats, breathes, sleeps contract management,
Yeah.
CLM. So, anyone who wants to, all those legal professionals out there, they want to understand about legal technology, CLM. This is the episode where Prashant, as a shared, he does that. And there are many other insights, his journey, his leadership, how that evolved, and he's a family person. And Uh, his daughter wished him to go and enjoy the conversation and giving back to society, like as I said in the conversation, like this emerging lawyer or the Coffee Conversation Show, where we have got different series which are contributing for knowledge sharing, for memories, change maker, and all those things. So if you want to be featured like Prashant, where we have got over 400 plus coffee speakers from around the world, visit our website, the Emerging India Forum, or LinkedIn page, the Emerging India Forum, and we would invite you to have coffee conversation. So thank you.